Gigaba and National Treasury sat before the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, that's SCOPA, to provide answers to Parliament about the Integrated Financial Management System, that's the IFMS, which is meant to centralise all government payments. The system was created, you may remember, in 2005, before it was discovered that there are challenges with the programme, and that was in 2007. In 2013, it was decided that the system should be changed, and a new system was set up, which has to date cost the taxpayer another 1.2 billion rand in irregularities. Well, joining us from our Seapoint Studio this morning in Cape Town is Themba Godi, who is the chairperson of SCOPA. Themba, thank you so very, very much for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you very much.
So we look at the time frame, which I think I've spoken through. I think if it was tabled before Parliament at 2002, 2005 it was started, and then only in 2007 did we start noticing things going wrong. But now this is 10 years later. Why has it taken so long?
Well, I think that is firstly the point of concern for us as Parliament, that a system that was meant to modernize and unify the scattered systems for payroll, supply chain management, HR and financial management, so strategic for government, has been so messed up. Firstly, in the first phase, as you explained, after 2005, 1 billion rands later, it was found that that system had many problems and had to be abandoned, and a new process started, which is now called IFMS 2. And yesterday we met simply because the structures put in place to enhance project management were just not good. It was just bad.
Some of the things that are said about the system: it lacked internal controls to mitigate risks, inadequate payment procedures, no budget information, as well as a lack of independent quality assurance. Was this the system's fault, or do you believe that there's some unscrupulous activity by the personnel as well?
No, I think, some officials at National Treasury abused the trust that South Africans had on National Treasury to engage in an orgy of looting and corruption. Because as you indicated, of all places, National Treasury, how do you have a situation where contractors are paid without any defined deliveries? How do you have a situation where contractors are paid and yet the task for which they've been contracted has not been delivered? How do you have payments in instances where there are no timesheets to indicate the amount of time that has been expended to justify the invoices that have been submitted?
Now, what we're hearing is that the Director General has stopped all payments until the forensic audit is done. The forensic investigation, which we heard yesterday, has been implemented, and it is being done to determine who did what, where this money went to. And Treasury has confirmed that there was no control on the contractors, and the Minister, of course, accepting full responsibility yesterday for, what was the full amount? Is it over R1 billion?
Well, look, in the first instance after 2005, yes, the amount used was R1 billion.
Yeah.
And when the new program started in 2013 up to now, the money that has been used so far is 1.2 billion.
Yeah.
The overall budget is 4.3 billion.
Sure.
And it is envisaged that around 2021, the system should be up and running, which will be almost 20 years after it was conceived.
Yeah, which is unacceptable, as you yourself were saying yesterday.
Totally unacceptable.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the way the management of the system was set up, you would wonder whether do officials and even the ministers value the system the way it has been punted to the country, because the importance of the system and the way it was being managed are so diametrically opposed that we're actually wondering, is there political will? Yes, the political decision was taken, money is made available, but to throw money and then look away is irresponsible at the same time. So both at an administrative level and also at a political level, we think as SCOPA there have been huge failures.
Yeah, I mean, it's well and good that the now finance minister is accepting, Malusi Gigaba is accepting full responsibility, but this started way before he even was considered for this position. I mean, when we go back to the days of our former finance minister Trevor Manuel, it was then Themba Godi in that office, and fingers have been pointed towards Minister Godi as well as the DG. I think it's DG Fuzile, that the former DG did not act on the audit committee's report on irregularities. Are these people going to be called in to answer as well?
No, look, Leon, what we would prefer is that let the forensic audit be done, and then it will give us a pointer, because I think there are 3 levels of responsibility here. One, it is management decisions, the kind of decisions, the quality of decisions that they took. And secondly, it is the officials who were assigned to that program. Did they do their work or did they not? Yeah. And thirdly, it is the consultants which were making money out of National Treasury without performing the responsibilities for which they have been contracted. So it is only when the forensic audit report is out that we can decide who and where do we put responsibility and who it is that will seek accountability from. But at this stage, I think one would want to avoid, the usual speculations that happen when these kind of things are at play. Let us allow the process to unfold, and once we have the facts, then we can lay responsibility and accountability based on facts, not necessarily on assumption.
Yeah, just in terms of the reputation of National Treasury, because obviously we know it's never received a qualified audit by the Auditor General, and certainly this is tarnishing its reputation, and it's very worrying. I mean, sitting there yesterday for you, what did you make of this blunder?
I must say, Liam, that for me and for the entire committee, it was a very difficult hearing, because, as you know, every time we have a hearing, National Treasury and the Auditor General are on our side to assist us, But then when you find that the kind of mismanagement and corruption that happened there, I kept on asking myself, it can't be National Treasury. It can't be National Treasury, because the things that were happening there, it merely said to us, well, maybe the assumptions we've had all along that National Treasury is an oasis of prudence and good governance was just a myth, or indeed that some officials have actually abused the trust that we have to go on an orgy of corruption and doing all wrong things, knowing that nobody has an eye on National Treasury. And I think you could see at the beginning of the hearing that National Treasury is not used to being grilled. They are used to coming and telling their story and go away. So it was a bit difficult at the beginning, because they couldn't understand how they were being treated like any other person. But in SCOPA, there are no holy cows. We want accountability for public money, irrespective of who is involved.
Yeah. Just as we wrap up this conversation, our institutions over time have demonstrated a blatant undermining of governing principles and government principles. And this, again, is another example of this. And yet, we've never heard of examples people being held accountable and behind bars for things like this. I mean, the amount of money that's being wasted that could be used for the betterment of South Africans, and you yourself were saying that yesterday. And yet, we don't see accountability, particularly when it comes to very, very harsh punishment, not just being removed from a position, but actually being thrown behind bars.
Yeah. No, very true. I agree with you. And I think for this particular round of, annual reports, which is ending now in September, we have made that the key area of our focus. And that is why we have roped in the anti-corruption task team as a way of saying, look, we need consequence management. And I'm sure you have heard, Leanne, about the discussions on amending the Public Audit Act to give the Auditor General more powers. There are a few things that we think need to be tweaked to ensure that the findings of the Auditor General are not taken for granted, but it becomes mandatory to act on them. So all of that arises out of our experience, you know, of engaging officials, identifying the wrongs, but officials being unable to take the necessary action that should serve as a deterrent and protect the public purse.
All right, we leave it there for this morning. Themba Godi, thank you very, very much for talking to us. He, of course, is the chairperson of SCOPA on the interaction they had in Parliament with the National Treasury yesterday when they went to provide answers about the costly irregularities on a multi-billion rand financial payment system. Let's take a